If you want to start a junk removal business, then this is the last video you're ever going to have to watch. You're not going to have to pay for any coaching programs or any courses or anything like that. The reason I'm making this video is because I've been in this space for the last 8 years, and recently I've noticed so many new people coming into this space who consider themselves gurus now and are selling coaching and mentorships and courses on how to start these businesses. And honestly, this is such a simple business to start that you don't need to be paying for any courses or coaching. Like I said, when I started in this industry about 8 years ago, there wasn't that much content that was helpful on YouTube. So that's why I started creating content as I went on my journey of starting one of these businesses. And honestly, it wasn't that difficult. If I can do it, you can definitely do it. And this one video is going to break down all the different components of how to start one of these businesses successfully. Realistically, there's only really one big component that will make or break one of these businesses. And it's really going to come down to your marketing, whether you're able to effectively market this business to your general area and get enough customers and enough leads coming through to grow the business. And that's actually something that's kind of funny because most of the people in these courses or coaching programs don't actually do their own marketing. So they're not selling you the one thing that's actually going to help you grow. Most of the businesses that you see selling these coaching programs and courses actually didn't even do their own marketing. They relied on a marketing agency to come and help them. And so that's the one main component that will make this business grow. And I'll be covering that towards the end of this video. I'm even going to give you a gold nugget at the end of this video that is going to be crucial to the growth of your business, so make sure you watch to the end. This video might get kind of long, so I've added timestamps down below. Make sure to check those out if you want to skip ahead. So let's start from the very beginning. You want to set up the business entity, and this is going to come down to choosing the name before you do anything else. And it's really important that you understand what type of name you're going to choose for this business. I'm going to give you some examples here on what you shouldn't do and what is probably going to help you later down the road. If I were to start another junk removal business right now, I would not name it Mario's Enterprises. It's too vague. It doesn't include any sort of keywords or phrases that would help me show up on Google or for people to understand what I do for work, right? So it's really important that you add phrases to the name of your business that is going to help you later down the road. So for an example, I would do Mario's Junk Removal Services. If you don't want to use your name and you want to use in a specific area, you could use something like 503 Junk Removal Services, something like that. Now it's specific to the area that I live in, and it knows that we're offering junk removal services. So choosing the name in the beginning is going to be a crucial part of the success and the growth of the business. So make sure you get this part right from the beginning. So this next part is going to be filing the name with your Secretary of State. So get on Google, type in Secretary of State for whatever state you live in, and you're going to file the business name there. You're going to have different options to be able to file as a sole proprietor, as an LLC, some sort of corporation like an S Corp. And this is going to be really important that you choose the right one that best fits your needs. And I cannot give you financial advice. There are different tax breaks based on the way that you structure your business. For the most part, people choose an LLC because it separates you from the business. But if you do higher revenues, you might consider one of the corporations because they do give you tax breaks. Once you finish filing with the Secretary of State, at this point, you're going to take all the information they gave you and you're going to file for a federal tax ID number. So type in federal tax ID number on Google, and it's going to take you to a federal website that is basically going to give you a social security number for your business. So now the business itself has a social security number that can build credit, and you can ask for loans based on this federal tax ID number. But the most important thing you can do with it now is open up a business bank account. So once you've applied for your federal tax ID number and you have it, you're going to go down to your bank, whatever bank you choose to bank with, and you're going to set up a business banking account. Just bring in all the paperwork you got from the federal tax ID number and the Secretary of State, and that's all you're really going to need in order to open up this bank account for the business. And the reason it's important to do this is because now you can set up credit card processing. So you can set something up like Clover or Stripe or any of these companies that offer credit card processing. You're going to want to make sure that you get one of these little devices that you can process credit cards while you're out doing work. Because trust me, if you're not able to process credit cards, you're going to miss out on a lot of work. Most people don't have cash these days on them. They'd rather be paying with a credit card. It's also going to lead to bigger tips, and who doesn't like more money? After this, the next thing you want to consider is any type of licensing you might need specifically in the county that you live in order to operate this business. Like I said, every single city and state is different, specifically down to the county level. So make sure you check with your county on what type of licensing you might need to operate one of these businesses. But for the most part, I've noticed like 90% of the country, there's basically no licensing that you need. There are specific states and cities and counties that do require some sort of hauling permit for junk or for trash. So make sure you check on that to make sure you have the proper licensing so that you don't get in trouble. And now we need to talk about insurance. So there's different types of insurance coverages that you could get for these businesses, but the most important one that I think everyone should get is a general liability policy. And they're typically not that expensive. They're anywhere from $50 to maybe like $150 a month. And that's typically for like a $2 million policy. It's important to have these because it protects you and the business, but also it helps open up doors for you to do work with bigger companies like construction businesses and property managers. Like I said, there's other types of insurances such as umbrella coverage, workman's comp, and commercial auto. And we'll talk later on in this video about why you might want those, but you might not want to start with them right away because they could get kind of expensive. After you figured out all the legal part of your business, which is everything we just covered, now we need to start talking about the logo. You need to design a logo for the business. You need to go out and make business cards, magnets, any promotional materials you're going to need for this business. This is the next step. That includes creating a website. These are all important things that are going to play a big role in the growth of this business. You can start with something simple like Fiverr.com. There's a lot of people on there that are very talented that could create a logo for you. They could design a business card, and then you could take these files and go and get them printed on something like Vistaprint. I used to use Vistaprint all the time for our t-shirts, for our hats, for our magnets, and for our business cards. That's a great place to order all these materials, and they're fairly cheap. Now the next thing would be creation of the website. There are tons of tools out there that you can use to make your own website. And that's totally okay to do if that's what your budget calls for. But I will tell you that creating a good website from the beginning is what's going to propel your business. It's what's going to bring in like 90% of the work that you will be getting. And that's where you're going to see the growth. In this space, we compete against big brands like 1-800-GOT-JUNK and Junk King, where they're spending millions of dollars on their website every month in order to outrank everybody. And so unless you have experience with that, then you won't see a whole lot of benefit from creating your own website. Now, I know that everybody has different budgets to work with, so work with what you have at the beginning, but always keep that in the back of your mind that upgrading your website is what will take your business to the next level. And that's something we offer here at drunkenwoolmoney.com. So if you want to get on a one-on-one call and go over a free consultation, you can call me here at the number on the screen, 503-914-7250. So let's talk about equipment now. There are some very basic things you're going to need, such as buckets, shovels, brooms. You're going to be going through a ton of gloves, so finding a good supplier for some affordable gloves is going to be important. You'd be surprised how this stuff starts to stack up when you go through it every day. The other thing you're going to need is a Sawzall. You're going to be using those blades on the Sawzall to cut through tons of stuff, but most importantly, through hot tubs is the number one tool that you use to get a hot tub removal done. Another thing you're going to need for a hot tub removal is going to be like these big loppers to cut the big hoses. I'll leave a link down below to the ones that we used to use because they were lifesavers. So now some of the bigger pieces of equipment you're going to need is to make a decision based on your budget as to what form of vehicle you're going to be using or what form of trailer you're going to be using. So there's a couple different setups that most people will go with when they first start out, right? You're going to use a truck and trailer setup where it's a truck and then a landscaping trailer that doesn't dump. Now the next two setups are obviously going to be a little bit more expensive, but I'm telling you, if you can afford it, start with a dump trailer at least. And if you can't at the moment, you got to upgrade to one as soon as you possibly can. Your back is going to thank me. I'm telling you, it's going to make your day-to-day so much more enjoyable if you don't have to hand unload. There's different sizes of dump trailers, obviously. There's short walls, tall walls, so 2-foot walls. There's 4-foot walls. I mean, I used all of them. I had a 2-foot wall, a 4-foot wall, and a 6-foot wall. I had a 12 by 6 by 4-foot walls. I had a 12 by 7 by 6-foot walls. And then I had a PJ that was a 12 by 7 by 4. And honestly, any one of those will get the job done. But if you can get something like the PJ, which is the middle of the road, it's a 15 cubic yard, 4-foot walls, and it's a heavy duty trailer, I would recommend that one all day. And if it's really within your budget, then just get an Isuzu MPR. It's going to help you a lot in tighter situations where you have to go downtown. It can get kind of annoying and kind of stressful backing up into these tiny little driveways and these busy roads. It's also going to look more professional. No matter what you do to a wrapped trailer and truck, it's never going to look as professional as like an Isuzu MPR. So if you can, if it's within your budget, just go ahead and get that. Let's talk about networking. Networking is going to be one of the key components of growing this business, okay? And the reason why networking is so important is because you want to network with people and businesses that will bring you repetitive work, not just one-off jobs here and there. Of course, those are great, but having these relationships with companies or people that run companies is going to be really important. Some of the people you want to be networking with would be real estate agents and property managers. And there's specific events for these types of professionals. And in my city, there's a specific event for real estate agents or property managers that happens every couple months. And hundreds of them show up to this one event. And what's really cool about some of these events is sometimes they let you pay to speak. So you could pay a couple $100s and be speaking to the exact type of clientele that you want and let them know about your business and the services that you offer. Now, some of the other people you want to be networking with would be construction companies and general contractors. And one way to get in front of some of them would be joining your local chamber of commerce and going to some of those events. Now, all the people that I've been telling you to network with, you don't necessarily have to do it this way. Obviously, it's better face-to-face, but if you have to, you could always use email marketing or direct mail, and I've made separate videos on the entire subject, and I'll leave a link for it somewhere here on the screen. Go check that video out if it interests you. All right, we're down to marketing, and marketing is honestly the last piece of the puzzle. It is what's going to make or break your business. If you don't have good marketing, you don't have any calls coming in, and you're not getting any work. So let's start off with the cheapest form of marketing and the thing that I think a lot of people need to do when they first start with this business. And it's going to come down to Craigslist, okay? Now, I know that sounds funny, but it's a good place to get started, and I'm going to tell you why. It's really cheap. It's like $5 a post, and if you get calls from there, you're going to be practicing, okay? You're going to learn how to answer the phone, how to sell, how to close leads, how to bid jobs, and it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg if you get it wrong. I actually did this for a few weeks before I even did any of this other stuff that I'm telling you to do, okay? And the reason I did that is because I wanted proof of concept. So here's what I did. I would post on Craigslist 4 times a week, all right? And I was using it as a way to practice. I would get a call or a text that would send me pictures of junk. They'd say, how much is it? And I would give them a price. And then what I started doing is I started writing down in my notes how much money I would have made that week had I done all these jobs, right? Even though I didn't go do any of them, which I feel bad for, right? It's not like I had an actual business where they could actually rate online. It was just me practicing. But once I figured out how much money I was missing out on, then I knew that I had to go back and do all this stuff properly instead of the business because I knew there was money to be made there. And I want to encourage you guys to practice and experience with less expensive forms of marketing that are not as extreme as some of the other ones that we'll talk about later in the video. So like I said, a good one to start with is Craigslist, but the next one would be Facebook groups. And if you don't know, if you're on Facebook, you can go to something called Facebook groups and you can type in like a specific city that you live in, right? Like I live in Oregon City and we have a few groups in this area. One of them has like 40,000 members and they're basically people that live in this area that post on there about what's happening in the local community, if there's events. Sometimes people will go on there and type in who's a good landscaping company in my area, and then people will tag the specific businesses that they know in the area, and you'll see a lot of people actually respond to these posts and they're really engaged because they want to support local business. So the way that you could utilize these groups is go and create a Facebook profile for your business and create posts on there and share them to the group. Make sure you read the guidelines of the group so that you don't get suspended or kicked out of the group. Some of them will say, yeah, you can promote your business, but please don't spam us. Maybe post once a week, for example. But what's cool is you can join a lot of these groups. Sometimes you'll see like 60 groups in one specific city. I actually have a customer who has 80 dumpsters. He has a dumpster rental business and he has 80 dumpsters, and he grew to 80 dumpsters just by using Facebook groups. So when he came to me, he had 80 dumpsters and I said, what are you doing to get work for these 80 dumpsters? He says, well, my wife shares to 60 of these groups every week, and that is how we stay busy with the dumpster rental business. So Facebook groups does work, just takes a little bit of time every day to share to them, but make sure that you do it religiously and you will see work from them. Now here's another one that you could be doing is Instagram. Now with Instagram, you're gonna have to be a little bit more seasoned because you're gonna have to film jobs. Once you start getting some jobs, if you start filming them, it's gonna help you on Instagram. Now I'm saying film because it's really important that you understand that video is what's gonna get you the most attention on Instagram. So if you are gonna do this sort of content on Instagram, make sure that you're posting videos of you talking to your target audience, of you talking to your community and introducing yourself as the business owner they want somebody to connect with. So if you're willing to make videos that you talking with maybe the job going on in the background, or you talking somebody through the job, what you guys are doing and where you're doing it, then it's a really good idea to post on Instagram, but only if you're going to do video. Other forms of marketing would be working with companies that sell leads like Yelp, Thumbtack, and Angie's List. Now, a lot can be said about some of them, but you know what? I always tell people to try it, and if it doesn't work, then they know they've checked it off and that it doesn't work in their city. And the reason I'm telling you this is because you'd be surprised how many people swear against a specific company, and then you talk to somebody in a different state and they had a great experience with that company. And sometimes what I've noticed is that specific companies will generate better leads in one area than other areas. For example, Yelp seems to do really, really well in California, but they do horribly in Texas, for example, or in Oregon where I live. And I've tried all of them. Honestly, for me, the one that worked the best at the time was Thumbtack. I've heard negative things about it in the last couple of years, that it's gotten too expensive or too competitive, but I tried Thumbtack, Yelp, and Angie's List. Out of those, the worst one was actually Angie's List. They make you sign like a $4,000 contract, and I believe I received 3 phone calls from that $4,000 contract. But I'm telling you, on the flip side of that, I've talked to other people that, spent $60,000 a year on Angie's List and generated $600,000 in revenue. So that's why I said it's really important for you to try it for yourself and see if it works. Now, the one part of marketing that always seems to work if it's done the right way is Google. So let's do a breakdown of Google. Essentially, Google breaks down into 2 components, the paid component and the free component. And let's start off with the paid one. It's called PPC, pay per click. Essentially, at the very top of Google, you're going to see sponsored listings. Sometimes they're sponsored as Google guaranteed listings, meaning Google runs the ad for you. You do nothing. All you do is you fill out their form, and they do a background check of the business, and then you pay them. The other form would be running your own Google ads, and you have total control. Now, this way is typically what most people do. If it's done the right way, it seems to work. It also depends on the city, the state, and the competition that there is in that city, and how expensive the clicks are in that specific scenario. One thing to note here is that Google ads can get kind of expensive and overwhelming if you don't know what you're doing, and I've made a full tutorial on how to do Google ads for your business and what things to avoid when running ads for yourself. I'll leave the link here and down below. You can check that video out when you have a moment. The last thing I will say about Google ads is, in my opinion, it is a great way to start your business, but it is not a great way to grow a business. You don't want to be tied down to paying for ads for the lifetime of your business. You want to be able to have work coming in without you having to spend money on ads. So what I tell most people is that Google Ads is a great way to start a business. It is not a good way to scale a business. In most scenarios, what I would like for my customers to do is to get away from Google Ads within the first year and rely solely on their organic reach from Google through SEO, through the website, and through the networking that they did throughout the year with those types of customers and people that we talked about earlier in this video. So the reason that I tell most people to get away from Google Ads within the first year is because of the 20-80 split. And the 20-80 split is 20% of the people searching online will click on an ad. The other 80% will click on an organic listing, whether it's the GMB or whether it's the websites below that. But not everybody clicks on ads. And if you're only running ads, you're basically fighting for 20% of the pie when the people that are focusing on SEO are getting the other 80% of the pie. So what is SEO? SEO stands for search engine optimization. Basically, the way that you can manipulate Google when somebody types in something like junk removal in my area, junk removal near me, junk removal in a specific city. You want to show up for those search phrases because those search phrases are money phrases, okay? If your website shows up at the top of Google when somebody types one of those specific search phrases in, it means they're interested in that service. And if you show up at the top, they will call you. And this is essentially what Junk King and 1-800-GOT-JUNK and these big franchises, that's what they do. They dominate the first page. All comes down to how your website was built from the very beginning, which leads me back to the beginning of this video, how important it is to have a well-built website if you're going to be going up against big companies like these franchises. Essentially, the way that website structure works is like this. Think of every page on your website as a different way for you to show up when somebody types a specific search phrase in. If your homepage is designed to show up when somebody types in junk removal Los Angeles, that is what that page will show up for. That is the only thing it will show up for if that's the way it was made. If you understand the layout of Los Angeles, you'll understand how many surrounding cities they have, okay? And if you want to show up for Long Beach, then now you need to have a specific page that says junk removal in Long Beach. And it's not that simple. I mean, I'm giving you examples that break it down in a simple way, but there are a lot of different structures you need to follow for that page to be recognized as a specific page for junk removal in Long Beach. And so if you really think about your service area, how many cities you have around you and how many services your business offers, you're talking about several hundred pages if you live in a place like Los Angeles. So it's really important that you're covering all these search phrases so that you get the most amount of chances to show up when somebody is looking for that specific service in that specific city. And that is why when we look at junking.com, that specific website has like 10,000 pages. And that is how they show up so many times, and they've grown a multi-million-dollar brand. The way that I want you to think about this is the size of your website is going to be a direct reflection of how big your business is going to be and how much money your business will make. Now, I told you that I was going to give you one specific gold nugget at the end of this video, and as a thank you, this is what I want to share with you. One of the key fundamentals of SEO is getting your Google My Business listing to rank just as well as your website, right? But what happens is that one of the number one ranking factors of Google My Business, and if you don't know what Google My Business is basically it's the profile that you see on Google when somebody types in a specific service and they show the business with the business ratings, right? Like it'll say 4.8 stars out of 500 reviews. That is a Google My Business listing. And the way that Google displays those, and one of the number one ranking factors of one of those is the proximity. So however close somebody is to the listing of where that business was registered is what it will show around you. So let's use Los Angeles as an example again. If you register your business, junk removal in Los Angeles, in downtown Los Angeles, that business will not show up again in Anaheim. It will not show up again in Riverside because it's too far away from that downtown area. And between you and that downtown area, there's going to be a lot of other businesses. And so it's just going to show other businesses that are closer. One of the things that a lot of people do in this industry that they don't talk about is they create fake Google My Business listing profiles to show up in those other cities. And several years ago, it used to be a lot easier. You were able to get away with more profiles because they didn't require video verification. They would send you a postcard with a pin, and typically you get away with it. But now they require video verification, and so you have to jump through some extra hoops to do this, but it can be done. The way that it would work is you would create a new business name, register it with Google, make sure you use a different phone number and a different website. You're basically duplicating your business multiple times to create new listings in a specific area that you want to show up in. Now, it could get kind of complex, kind of difficult, and kind of frustrating, but I'm telling you, it is worth it in the end. And this is what people won't share with you even when you buy a coaching program or a course from them. If you're interested in learning more about any of this marketing stuff that I'm talking about that will actually play a big role in growing your junk removal business, you can always call me at 503-914-7250 or visit junkremovalmoney.com. I would love to help you on your journey of growing your junk removal company. Call or text me anytime, and I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks.